How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben. As always, I'm here with some draft content, but I'm joined by a special guest today. Friend of the channel, Ricky O'Donnell at SBN_Ricky on Twitter. SB Nation draft, NBA, basketball aficionado. Ricky, how's it going today? Thanks for coming on.
What's going on, Ben? Thanks for having me. It's been sick to see your channel blow up, putting out great stuff like that Kingston interview. So yeah, I've been locked in on the channel. You've been putting out some good stuff. So thanks for having me tonight, man.
For sure. And I wanted you on for this one specifically. We're talking about superlatives. I had y'all send in some superlative questions on Twitter for this draft, and we're going to go through. I always appreciate your perspective. I think you're often convicted in your analysis of details and things. I liked your Ricky, was it today you dropped the piece on Boozer being your definitive number one guy, which I agree with. Should definitely check that out. Wanted to go through some superlatives, just the questions y'all sent. We got a ton of questions, so apologies if we didn't get to your superlative. We're going to go through a good amount today. So, Ricky, are you ready to dive into these?
Let's do it. I had trouble with some of these, and I'm wondering if maybe me and you might be thinking in totally opposite directions on a few of them.
I know.
So we got some great questions from Ben's loyal fan base, so thanks everyone for hitting us up.
Well, big thank you to the loyal fan base, or even if you're not a fan, if you're watching the video, it helps the algorithm. I appreciate it.
Even if you're a hater.
Even if you're a hater, the likes and I'm sure you're probably not clicking like, but the comments do help, so I appreciate you regardless. But let's get to this first one, which I really liked. Relevant question from at Casares_Raul. Again, I'm going to butcher all these names, as I always say, so apologies in advance. Best wemby defender. I think this is a very interesting question because Wemby is a reality that every team sans the Spurs is just going to have to think about and team build around over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long he's terrorizing the league. And I thought this one was not as easy as just like who I think is the best defensive player in the class. So, Ricky, I'm curious who you had as your best Wemby defender. Or we're each going to try to pick one for each of these, but it's okay if we have some honorable mentions. But wanted to see if I could pare these down to pick one instead of being a coward and being like, these.
Yeah, great question. This was one where I figured we may disagree because, do you go with the center here? I mean, Wemby's just so fast that I thought, I considered a Daimara, and then I thought, man, Wemby would stretch him out to the perimeter, and he might cook him with his super long strides and his decel ability. So I actually went with Mara's teammate, Yaxel Lendeberg. Maybe not the most natural matchup for Wemby, but I guess my reasoning is that, he's one of the longest players in the class. 7'4" wingspan is, I believe, what he measured with last year at the Combine. He's got a very strong chest, and he's someone who I feel like Wemby won't be able to push him around on the block, even though Wemby's going to have a length advantage over him and anyone else. And I sort of like the idea of maybe putting a smaller defender on him who could get into his legs a little bit more and make him settle for perimeter jump shots. So I went Yaxel on this one. I felt like maybe that was a weird answer, but this was an interesting question, so I'm fascinated to see what you're picking here.
We had the same thought process, even if we landed on different answers. I didn't even consider Mara or many of the real centers. I think you see this with many of the outlier tall creators, that you guard them with shorter players because having that center of gravity is really helpful. Like Giannis was the same way, even if, like Al Horford being quintessential Giannis stopper. And I think the players we see give Wemby trouble, right? They're not necessarily like-sized players. There really are no like-sized players. I thought about players with length, with strength, physicality, good at denying catches. So I have two answers. I think my easy answer, if we can turn off injuries, is Jaden Quaintance. I ended up having him as my honorable mention because I think it's just a little bit of a wild card, but theoretically, he has the movement skills, the physicality, the strengths, the length, the explosiveness to really deny Wemby catches and bother him in that intermediate area, which I think is such a key. No one's really going to bother him that much on the block if he gets there, right? So I think it's all about denying him position there. I also
He
considered,
was second on my list, I'll say. So he was,
love that.
he came in second place for me.
I also considered Yaxel and Merez as well. I think is an interesting shout for this too. Definitely a little less maybe perimeter oriented than Yaxel, but I mean he's plenty good defending on the perimeter. I think they honestly have kind of similar cases for being Wemby defenders. But the guy who I came to, who I kept coming back to, is an interesting one, was Ruben Chinyelu, who I think is going to be my sneaky answer for this. I think Chinyelu has kind of the perfect build, like 6'10-ish without shoes, crazy wingspan, crazy strong chest, but also is super fluid and mobile, like laterally moving backwards. And Chinyelu, like, isn't the most like disciplined, like help side shot blocker, and I don't think his instincts in that part of the game were phenomenal, but like nobody is blocking Wemby from the weak side, so I don't really care. But I think Chinyelu has the physical presence, at least, to be a real deterrent to Wemby's catches, and when he actually gets the ball, his physicality, his strength, has some of the length to deter and contest, and has just the crazy standing reach. I think it's like definitely 9 foot plus, his standing reach to bother him a little bit. But I think those guys, Merez and Yaxel, among healthy guys, were the main ones I considered.
Great shout on Chinyelu. I had Merez third, and I did not consider Chinyelu. Is he definitely in this draft? He's testing the waters,
I don't think
right?
so, which is totally fair. If you wouldn't consider him for that reason, because I think there's a good chance he goes back to Florida, but also maybe not, because so many of the centers have already pulled out of this draft, and there's probably room for someone like him. I think maybe even like Terrace Reed, probably just not mobile enough, but he has like the strength and physicality you want. Did you think at all about Caleb Wilson here for this question?
I did think about Caleb Wilson, who might be the best overall defender in the class. I'd still probably give it to Quaintance, but I really like Caleb Wilson, just his ground coverage, his motor, obviously, his versatility. Two things on Chinyelu. One is that when I was writing my Boozer piece, I was thinking back to the Duke Florida game, and I knew there was a possession where Boozer went through Chinyelu, who I believe he had a 7'8" wingspan and 265-pound frame. So he's going to be one of the heaviest and longest players in the NBA whenever he does go to the league. And I found the clip. It's like Boozer finishes an and one over him, which was, part of my...
Yeah, it's a big spin to the top of the key, and he like goes left. Is it that one, or is it the one where he like pivots and twists? I think he had two in that game.
Yeah, it's a pivot and twist one. Is the one I used in the story, at least. But yeah, I mean, I just use that as evidence that, like, dude, if you could score on Chinyelu, you can kind of score on anyone, because this guy is an absolute physical freak. And then secondarily, how about the success of Dylan Cardwell on the Kings this year? Maybe giving me some hope that Chinyelu can be a pretty good pro. Like, I was a big Cardwell fan as a college player at Auburn. He really can't do anything on offense, or I didn't think he could.
I prefer Chinyelu as a prospect to Caldwell for sure, I think.
Yeah, and he was pretty good as a rookie in Sacramento this year. Like, he was totally playable, and
solid rotation big.
Yeah, if nothing else, soak up some minutes. So
it's interesting that
Caldwell had a good year, and I feel like Chinyelu could be someone like that. But I bet Chinyelu probably goes back to Florida if they're giving Thomas Howe $8 million a year or whatever it is, and that's going to be a nasty team.
Howe's another potential answer for this if he stayed in. I honestly didn't barely even considered Wilson for this. Like, I think he just lacks like the center of gravity and the balance and the strength, which is crazy because I think Wilson is probably the best overall defensive prospect in the class. But for this specific thing, I think I like this question just because I think it's so fun to like dig into the different defensive roles and the things that players with different body types and skill sets can do. But I like that one a lot. Let's get to our next superlative. Comes from friend of the show, content creator Ryan Hammer 09 on Twitter. I don't think I needed the 09 there. He asks, quickest first step in the class. I think this one has a clear and obvious answer, but I'm not sure it's the one that is the common answer. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
All right. I'm interested to see if we landed in the same place too. I went with Ibuka Okoro.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you agree, because I wasn't sure if that was a little bit off the beaten path, but just so his standstill burst was just crazy. I mean, he was getting wherever he wanted on the floor. Just such a lightning fast first step, and not like the best finisher at the rim, but he just felt like one of those guys who could get wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And certainly his team context did him no favors, and he was still like phenomenal as a true freshman at Stanford. And really, without Keaton Wagler being this like out of nowhere story, it was like whatever, the number 150 recruit to now be a top 10 pick. Like Okori is like a less publicized version of that because he was outside of the top 100 in the recruiting rankings, goes to a pretty hopeless Stanford team and just like immediately killed it. Like was good early in the season, all the way through the year, kept getting better. And his speed as a ball handler is really just what stands out to me. So that's who I went with.
I mean, there's plenty of ways to kind of make this case statistically. He leads the class in unassisted rim makes per 100. I think he leads the class in like half court rim frequency among guards, but just watch him play. He is so unbelievably blinding. It is crazy the way that he goes from 0 to 60, either standing still or dribbling, just hits his back foot in the ground. He's got such like a flexible, like compact lower body too that I think it helps him generate a lot of force. And yeah, he is overall a freak athlete. I mean, I think pound for pound, he's one of the best athletes in the entire draft. Like obviously he's short, which is a big issue, but he's going to measure with a pretty long wingspan, I think. Crazy strong, explosive vertically, but to me, his burst is clear and away the best in this class. I don't really think it's close. I was talking about this with another friend someone recently. It isn't that crazy, like bursty of a... Like, I feel like we don't, aside from Ibuka and maybe Kingston Fleming, so I think is the popular answer for this, there aren't so many, like, true, like, Ivy, Scoot, Suggs, Wall-type burst players in this class.
Yeah, and I didn't even put down a second player for this. I just went with Okori, whereas most of these answers I have multiple guys. But I actually was thinking maybe Debonsa, too.
Yeah, agree.
Like, his first step is nasty. He's just got a lot of suddenness to his game in general, and I feel like, obviously, like, there's other parts of his driving that stand out more, like his stride length and his flexibility and stuff like that, but man, he's got a pretty good jab step, and he can really gain the advantage just right away at the point of attack when he wants to. So I guess I'll give him a shout. I did not consider him. I have no second place for this. I thought Okori was the answer, but shout out to AJ too.
I think it's a great shout, and if you want to factor in like size, which I did not, I think it's probably AJ, just because there's really nobody at that height with his kind of first step. I totally agree with that. And I wanted to quickly mention I think like 3 people responded under the person who left this or under Ryan's thing, like Kingston Flemings. And I'm like, yeah, but I also think his superpower is more like the way that he like maintains and even adds speed like deep into his drives. He's not always like super cleanly winning with that first step, but even when he does, he's like adding more distance with his second and third steps. And of course, it's just so explosive vertically above the rim. But I think Okori is just a different caliber first step than everyone else in this class. And that's part of why I'm as high on him as I am.
Can I throw one more at you here?
Absolutely.
How about Dalen Swain for this question? What do you think of his first step?
I think it's very good for his size, but I probably wouldn't have it on the level of these guys. It is quite good. It's definitely a weapon for him. And maybe it's like harder to see sometimes just because of how he's guarded. Like the fact that he's not guarded closely like a shooter like makes it just tougher to show off the first step. That is a good one though. I think especially like the AJ one relative to size, he's definitely got a crazy first step. Love that question. Let's get into the next one from @DillyHim. I did not just include this one because you're a Rob Dillingham stan. I promise. Best flare screen / stagger screen, or for that matter, any off-ball screen shooter. So just off-movement shooter is how I took this question. And I think this is also one where there's quite a few potential options. And this is the one where I have like 2 buckets. My first bucket is not really someone I like that much as a prospect, but is undeniably just the GOAT off-ball shooter, which is Milan Momcilovic. I think is like the clear answer if we're just talking like literally anybody. But among players who I have in my top 60, I do think I probably will go with Isaiah Evans. It's a boring answer. He's like, I think he's probably first or second among wings in this class in 3-point volume, crazy high release. And he just has that shooter trait where he will like never stop taking the open looks. I will not forget the Florida game where he went one was it the Florida game where he like went 1 for 8 and then he hit a game-winning three off a ghost to end the game. Like, yeah, that's just what I need. I think his height is also a big factor here. Like, it's quick, high release, like really hard to guard after he comes off screens. But I think, yeah, so I landed on Isaiah Evans here, but I think there were quite a few different answers that I considered, and I don't think this is one that's like clear-cut at all.
I had two names written down. One of them was Isaiah Evans, but he was the second name on my list. And the one I chose, I don't have Synergy. I lost my Synergy access. If anyone is listening to this and wants to hook me up, holler at your boy. But, so I'm just going on vibes on this one. And I saw this guy play in person live at the Big Ten tournament.
I did not look at Synergy for this, to be clear. I also was mostly vibesing for this one.
Yeah, and I just love his game in general. And that's Bennett Sturtz.
Wow.
Who you think of him more as an on-ball player and a shot creator, but I also think he's pretty good running off screens and hitting shots. I think he's a good relocation shooter, just like has great touch basically all over the floor. So maybe kind of a weird answer, and I'm happy to give you the floor to criticize this pick or to, tell me about other guys I should have considered. But I like Sturtz in general as a shot maker, and I feel like he has pretty good shot prep off the ball, even though at Iowa, he had such a high on-ball load. He had to create everything for that offense. But when he did get off the ball, I liked his ability to like zoom around screens and be able to square up and hit shots quickly.
I like it a lot as well. I mean, I didn't really consider him just because of it's just a lot of projection, like you kind of alluded to. I think he certainly has the traits, and especially if you're leaning more into the off-ball movement, screen setup kind of angle, I think Sturtz is a totally reasonable choice. I mean, he's a brilliant off-ball feel guy. I mean, he's give and go king, so good at like passing the ball and then sprinting away to the open space after the drive and the help comes, and his touch is really crazy. Okay, so I don't think that's a bad shout at all. I just didn't really think about it. This is a crazy shooting class. And like you said, just probably because I bucket him as such like a crazy high-level on-ball shot maker that I wasn't thinking about him as much. Like Peterson is another one I considered, but I think is also, I think of more of like an on-ball shot maker. Same with like Michael Brown, has some movement shooting stuff, but is more of an on-ball shot maker. But yeah, I like Isaiah Evans for this one. Cam Carr, another one I think you could think about, but just doesn't have the efficiency that some of these other guys have.
Yeah. Man, Peterson's off-ball shot making really impressed me this year based on who I thought he was watching the high school tape. I thought that that might be like an area of weakness for him. Might be like three-point volume or just like ability to impact the game off the ball. I guess I was viewing him more watching the high school stuff as like a heliocentric creator type. Then he comes in and he doesn't have the burst this year because of the injuries, and he looked awesome hitting shots off screens. It's like now I would consider him among the best shooters in the class.
100%. I think he'd be a totally reasonable pick for this, and especially because like his gravity is so ridiculous. That wasn't something I considered as much for this one, but like the way that he'll like pull two defenders off a pin down and usually his teammates wouldn't be able to capitalize on the opening was absolutely ridiculous. One more lower level guy I considered for this, who honestly might be my second place, just the craziest shooter numbers, is Ryan Conwell, Michael Brown's teammate at Louisville. 17.4 for 100 possessions. Absolutely silly. It leads the class by a comfortable margin. Isaiah Evans is second. But he is a crazy shot maker. And I think he's less of like a off-screen flyer than more of like a versatile set shooter. I don't think his like off-balance twisting shots are as crazy as just like the range he has as a spot shooter. But in terms of sheer like volume and the shooting history we've had from Conwell, wasn't like that crazy efficient this year, but was 40% each of the last 2 years. And his volume, it's so hard to shoot. Like 34.5% from three on 17.4 threes per 100 is efficient to me. Like,
no doubt. He was a fantastic player, and man, I had a lot higher hopes for that Louisville team. I thought that they could be good this year, but Mikel's back injury kind of screwed them, and then the defense was never that good. So they were going to have to bomb people out basically from three, and that's a hard way to live every game.
It is a tough way to live, especially in a college basketball landscape that just seems to be like upsizing pretty constantly. Louisville might be leaning into that a little bit more this year, but we'll see. They still have they're still going to have plenty of guards. Next one at Shade Nim, most versatile on-ball defender. And I took this as literally just like who can guard the most positions. So I'm curious to, and I guess there's other ways to take it as well in terms of like actions and stuff. But where did you go with this one? Most versatile on-ball defender.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't viewing it exactly that way, but if you asked me who the best defender in the class was, I would probably either say Caleb or Merez. I feel like Merez is about as close as you can get to like a four-position defender in this class, just because he has like the base, and I think he's pretty disciplined to guard bigs. And then whenever he was switching, he was pretty good. But no, I mean, I have JQ, I have Merez, I have Swain, and I have Caleb as my honorable mentions, but I went with Yaxel again.
Ooh.
I don't know. I saw a lot of him this year because I covered Michigan at the Big Ten tournament, and the Sweet 16 in the Elite Eight, and then the Final Four in the National Championship. I also saw him in person at Northwestern during the regular season, and so Yaxel could just be such a great defender, I think, at the next level. Like, he is just has such great closing burst in terms of like recovery speed.
Yep.
So like even when someone does beat him or someone has an advantage on him, he can just like get to the ball so quickly. And he just has a gigantic frame and long arms and a strong chest. So yeah, I don't know. I struggled with this one. I put down a lot of names, but I guess I'm going Yaxel.
I don't think there's a clear answer here at all. I considered Yaxel. I think his like hips are a little stiff for me in terms of guarding down, and I do agree that like, his recovery tools are crazy. Like, he gets beat a lot, but I think he is very fast and explosive and long recovering, so that's definitely a factor as well. I think Merez was my second place. I think I just went with Caleb Wilson. I mean, it's kind of a boring answer. And the 1 through 5 potential switchability with Wilson is a projection, because I think he's so raw technically. Like, his feet are all over the place. He's off balance a lot on the ball, but I think those are generally coachable things. And I think there might be a limit on like how strong he can get in his core and his lower body just because of how like lanky and lean his frame is. But yeah, I mean, his movement skills, his explosiveness are really one of one. The defender he's always reminded me of the most is Jonathan Isaac. And I think that's a guy who, at his peak, not injured, just blankets everyone, basically. Not someone you want to, like, throw on strong fives 1v1 in the post, and I think that'll be the same with Caleb Wilson. But, yeah. One more guy I considered for this, but had a little below, was Zuby Ejiofor. I think Zuby is, man, another one who just, like, might lack the height to really consistently match up with NBA centers, but, like, few guys like listed as bigs in this draft are as good as him in space against guards.
Tremendous player. I mean, I did a list of the 50 best players in March Madness this year, as I do every year. I had Zuby top 5, before the tournament. So, yeah, I mean, I thought Zuby was an absolute monster, and I think he was dominant in the Big East tournament leading up to March Madness. So that was probably the last thing I saw before I did these rankings. And
I mean, he's such an awesome
player. I'm putting him top 5. I love Zuby in general.
No, yeah. I agree. For sure. So Zuby was someone I thought of. And transitioning to another defense type question, at Ryan Murph 28 says, for his superlative, best post defending big, which is definitely a very different question than the ones we've had with the versatile on ball and the Wemby defense. So Ricky, who is your best post defending big in the 2020?
Yeah, I went Mara. I mean, just the length basically, but he does have a little high hips, not really a great base. So I could see him maybe getting pushed around a little bit in the post, but I felt like, not like I don't think he's at Chet's level, but like even when Chet would get bodied out of position, he would still have the length to be able to recover. You see it all the time in the NBA too, but I'm just mostly thinking of him as a prospect at Gonzaga. And I feel like Mara's got a little bit of that too. Like, I expect his wingspan to probably come in at 7, and there's only going to be 5 guys in the league maybe in the world that have a longer wingspan than him. So I've liked Mara for a long time. Actually, you put him on my radar way back in the day, before he even came to UCLA. And I remember you tweeting about, some of the FIBA film. So, Ben, he's always grinding the tape. He's always hooking us up with guys who are going to pop. And, it took a couple of years for Mara to get his opportunity. I think he was better than he helped himself more than anyone in March Madness, in my opinion.
For sure. So the way that I did this was I went to the consensus board and I filtered by weight. And Mara is up there. I considered him, I considered Quaintance, I considered Merez. Ultimately, though, I landed on Terrace Reed. He is the heaviest player in the class, so maybe that's doing some lifting for me. But I just think he's an absolute brick wall down low. Like, he is so hard to move. I remember the Duke game. Like, you never see people move Patrick Gongba, and he was throwing him around like a rag doll. Like it is truly absurd level of like core and functional strength. And I think that's kind of like the main thing I look for, like being able to deny deep position. Reed isn't going to be like as tall as Mara when it comes to like actually defending when they catch the ball on the block, and that's obviously a big difference. I think Mara might have been second or third for me. His physicality is somewhat concerning to me for a superlative like this, but yeah, I think Terrace Reed, I mean, an absolute brick wall in the truest sense of the word, and I think his discipline is quite good defending the post. I think he's a pretty like shaky defender in space at times, but that's not what this question is asking. It's just asking a guy to wall up, sit his ass down, and just not let someone move them backwards, and Terrace Reed can do that.
I like it.
Let's move on to the next superlative. This is from @NotTheGuy. Best phone booth scorer sans anyone in the Big Four. I just took this to mean, scoring in tight space against pressure, gaps, without, space to dribble. So who is your best phone booth scorer outside of the top four? I don't think I'd consider Wilson even kind of close for this, but the top three are probably the top three. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. I got two guys written down in there completely different. So this was an interesting question, phone booth scorer. I took it the same way, just like guys who are good in tight spaces. All right, my number one guy is Hannes Steinbach. I just feel like his hands are so good, and he can just catch the ball on like awkward angles, and then just immediately go up and finish, or be able to ready himself for a shot off an awkward catch. And yeah, I mean, you can't argue with his scoring efficiency. He doesn't weigh a ton, but like he's still pretty strong, and I feel like he plays with such a high motor.
He's like pure muscle too. Like he's like cut from stone.
Yeah, saw him live at the Big Ten tournament too against Wisconsin, and he was great in that game. And made me like him more. I
think I just recently watched that game actually. Yeah, I did. He was ridiculous in that game.
Yeah. So I've always liked Steinbach. I didn't have him on my preseason board, and I feel like every year I put out my preseason board the day after the draft, and then smarter, better people like you will be like putting other players, into the conversation spaces, and then I'm always like, ooh, I missed that guy, I got to go back and watch him. And Steinbach was that guy for me this year, where I didn't have him on my, the day after the 2025 draft, 2026 preseason board. And then as soon as I went back and watched some of the FIBA film, and I remember even playing against my boy Asenge, they were matching up against each other, a year. Yeah, and he was pretty good in some of those games too. So love Steinbach. And the second name I have here, just totally different direction, but I went Phylon because I feel
that's my answer. That's my answer. Wow.
I'll let you take it. I'll let you take it on Phylon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna say similar stuff. It was crazy because like a year ago would have never even considered him for this. Like not even top 10, I think. But the improvements he made as a sophomore to his physicality, to his control on drives, his dribbling, and his like changing directions through contact. Like I remember the Gonzaga game, I think it was Players Era tournament earlier in the year, where he was like driving into post-ups against them constantly and just getting shots in the restricted area that way. And I think his footwork, his manipulation, his craft are truly phenomenal. And the reason that I wouldn't have picked him was just because the strength still needs so much work, and that's a big part of playing in tight spaces, playing in pressure, being able to stay balanced through contact. And I think Phylon could get stronger, but yeah, to me he is the best phone booth scorer in the draft outside of the top three, because I do think if you made me give a top three of this, it would probably just be Peterson, Wilson, or Peterson, Boozer, and Demansa.
Phylon, I had him number 2 on this because what I was thinking is like, when I'm thinking phone booth, I'm partially thinking of like drop coverage, like attacking drop coverage. And you need a good floater for that. And
Yeah,
Phylon's floater is so good. So
true.
like, even when he doesn't have a lot of space or a lot of wiggle room, like obviously he's so shifty off the bounce. I would say he's probably the shiftiest guard in this class. I don't know if you agree with that, but
Yeah, I'd say so.
he's got nice shake on his handle, but then he can always go to the giant killer, the floater, when he needs it in tight spaces. So that's really why I picked him second here.
Yeah, I think Phylon was the one for me that makes the most sense. I think Wogler is another one in this same vein who just like doesn't have the physicality or the tools really to qualify for this. So then I had two more that are just like similar thing to I did earlier, where it's like guy who's gonna get drafted in the first round, or like fringy guys. I think Bruce Thornton is not a fringy guy, but he does not have much love by consensus, and I think he is also in the phone booth scoring echelon, just incredibly like when you think of strength, touch. I think he has an argument for best touch in the class. Like his shooting numbers are so crazy, and he's so good at like maintaining balance, stepping through, using his strength. But I do think Phylon ultimately just like has more juice and is a little more skilled. And for another guy who probably won't get drafted, but I think is in this craft neighborhood, is Duke Miles at Vanderbilt. He is
Killer. Loved him.
What, 24, 25-year-old rookie who broke out really late in his college career. So like huge red flags when it comes to his profile. And that's why he's as low as he is, despite having, to me, incredibly good tape this year. But yeah, Miles is so deceptive. He loves to like play off 2 feet, spin guys around, like ball fake with the ball, and then like D-Wade style spin back around to finish on the other side of the rim. Like he's not that explosive. He's not a crazy athlete, but he found ways to be super efficient and effective going downhill. So he's another guy who, if for whatever reason he ends up, beating a lot of the things that would potentially make him fail in the NBA, like if he makes it, he's going to be a guy who can score in tight spaces.
Great call. One of my favorite players to watch this year. That Vandy team was nasty. Him and Tanner in the backcourt were must-see TV. And yeah, I mean, is he on the G League list?
Duke Miles? I think so.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited for. He should kill them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Next one from @ODJ Hoops. We have best shot fake in the class. And at first I included this because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know. Like I don't know if this had one. But then I'm like, is it not just the Bansa? Like, is there anybody else?
What I have.
Is there anybody else who even comes close? Was what I thought about more. And I think my answer is no. He is one of the all-time shot fake players. Like he is truly in like Serge Ibaka Rice territory. It's not as maybe just like cartoonish, but yeah, I mean, the way that he can create with step throughs and pump fakes, and obviously like his athleticism and size plays a big part in this too, but yeah, I think he is one of the most skilled pump faking prospects I've ever watched, regardless of size. And yeah, I quickly came to the conclusion that there was no conversation for this one.
Yes, I have one name written down, and it's AJ. Such an essential thing for someone with his shot profile too. Like if you're gonna live quite a bit in mid-range, I've watched enough DeMar DeRozan games during my nearly 40 years of life to tell you need a good shot fake. And DeMar would get it on people where it was like, there's no way you're going to bite on this. There's no way you're going to bite on this. And then on the third or fourth one, DeMar would get him to jump, and he'd be able to draw a foul on it. And I just feel like if you're going to have AJ's shot profile, you need a good shot fake. He already has a very good one, and I think it's going to be an effective weapon for him in the league.
Since we both agree that there is no peer here for AJ in this case, anyone you'd have second place or any other honorable mentions or guys you thought of? I think Duke Miles also applies for this one. Kind of goes with his craft scoring package. Not someone I'm a huge fan of as a prospect, but Nate Ament has a pretty nice shot fake that I think he uses effectively. So anyone else that has a good pump fake that comes to mind?
I didn't have anyone else written down, but if you want me to just freestyle one off the top of my head, how about AJ's BYU teammate, Richie Saunders?
Ooh,
I feel like he was a pretty good pump fake guy before he had the injuries. So.
Well, it's great because he like catches the ball and releases it so quickly above his head, so it's so easy for him to pump fake. Like he already has the ball up here, always has to go like that, and guys fly by him. But Yeah, I think Boozer also has a good shot fake, but it's not to this level of AJ or these guys. Jeremy Fears, not a good shooter currently. Definitely gets people with his pump fake. It's one of those things where you watch him and it's like, why are you biting? I'm pretty sure he was like very efficient from three, but just like the volume is super low. And scouting report is probably not go bite on that. But yeah, he has his foul baiting tactics and such that's been talked about to no end. But yeah, he will have some plays where guys just have no business jumping at him, and yet they do anyway.
I love Fears. He's from my part of the world. He went to high school about 10 minutes away from where I went to high school. So I've been invested in his career and Jeremiah's career. I think Jeremy Fears Jr. is going to be an NBA player.
Same.
Eventually.
Big fan.
I don't know how many games he's going to play. If you told me over under 100, I think I would take the over. I mean, we'll see. It's tough to be a guard that's
his like free throw numbers and far twos and like the improvement to the volume makes me bullish that he's going to shoot eventually. So, and then if that's the case, then I think there's very few barriers to him being a long time rotation point guard. Into our next superlative at Newfried8 says best chaos agent, transition, defense. I just took this as like guys who make stuff happen when they're on the floor. And I think this is the one where I'm going to give Merez his number one. Like he is a chaos agent to me in that you just never don't notice him when he's on the floor. He's always making long rotations. He's always getting on the glass. Just always seems to be making stuff happen, which was kind of like the way I thought of this. But yeah, I think there's another one where there's quite a few other guys I considered, but I'll let you get to your list because I'm sure we'll have some overlap.
I wrote down one name on this and didn't have a second name. And that is Alan Graves.
Yeah. Yep.
And Alan Graves, to me, when I finally watched him play after reading a few things about him first, he reminded me of like when you sit down to play 2K with like your little cousin or something and they're going for the steal on every play. And it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, that's not how you play basketball. You can't always go for the steal. You can't always go for the block. But that's what Alan Graves does. And his hands are so good and his instincts are so good that it's effective. So to me, like I don't really know if I've ever seen a player like Alan Graves.
He's very unique.
I have no comp for him. I'm not going to say I've watched 15 of his games because I haven't, but I've seen him a few times, and I've never seen a player like him. Like he is the most aggressive defender at trying to get the ball that I can recall for someone that size. So
he is a very unique defender. I think I have like 8 or 9 games of his charted, and I got to see him in person earlier, which was awesome. Just clearly like reads the game at a different level, and like you said, that aggression. I mean, he fouls so much, but that comes with the territory with like the 5 steal, 5 block rate or whatever. He has something ridiculous up there. So I think Graves is another great answer for the chaos agent question. And then I had 2 more like honorable mention buckets, even though I think my answer is Merez, and I think Graves would probably be 2. It feels like pejorative to be like, oh yeah, Caleb Wilson is just a chaos agent, but he is. It's like he is better than that, right? It's like he is more than that, but if you need him to be, he is everywhere. He is always making plays. He's always around the ball. He's always trying to involve himself. So I think he definitely fits for this one. And then another late riser for me, someone who I have only caught on to recently, had a great Portsmouth, Isaiah Nelson from South Florida, a ludicrous athlete, and especially in those Portsmouth games. And I watched back a couple of his, like 3 or 4 of his games from the season, and it was a lot of the same, where his energy level is crazy. Like always.
Sorry to interrupt.
Always trying to deflect passes on the ball, always trying to like dive on the floor. Like he's crazy high player.
I brought up my top 50 March Madness guys list before the tournament that I published, and I had him number 50.
Good call.
He was so good at the end of the year, and I felt like, his numbers were just eye-popping when you were like running queries or even just like looking at his box score stats. So, is he going to be a second rounder now? I'm thinking about him to the Bulls at 58.
I have him. I kind of immediately threw him in my top 50 after seeing him at Pitt, and then I reaffirmed that take with some more tape. I think so. I see no reason why he shouldn't, personally. I mean, he is obviously limited in a lot of ways. Like he's a 6'9", 6'10", 4 without much feel or shooting ability, but like, man, is he a stupid athlete with a crazy high motor, and I think a legitimate like skilled defender. He's not just like running around there with like a chicken with his head cut off. Like I think he has a pretty good sense for where to be defending the pick and roll. Is going to be just an absolute monster in like a blitz trap scheme or teams that are more heavily in those kind of coverages. But yeah, he is a chaos agent. He is going to make things happen, and I love him a lot as like a sleeper in this draft. I think he's an awesome player. Also, probably not going to be in this draft, but Billy Richmond, I think, is testing the waters, and he also like fits this to a T. He is chaotic as hell. Next one, at Mr. Kanji, getting into a couple specific questions about passing. Best short roll passer, and is it anybody but Cam Boozer for you?
I got Boozer. He's the only name I got written down.
Same. I think this was another one where pretty hard to seriously consider anyone else. I think Boozer is the best passer in the class, period. I think he's one of the best big man passing prospects I've ever watched, and I think the best thing he does is like the quick hitting connective passes. He can make plays on the ball plenty, but I mean, yeah, you get him in space, and it's not like Duke really had anyone who was consistently like forcing two to the ball to get Cam in space, right? So it's not like he had that opportunity so much, but it is just so clear that when he catches the ball, he knows exactly where every single player on the court is. He knows where they're going to be. He knows where their momentum is headed, and he uses that to just pick out cutters and shooters all over the floor. So I think playing him next to a real on-ball star, because like Cam has played with a lot of great teammates, but he's never really played with like an elite on-ball scoring point guard. Like that's never Caden's game. That's not like Jace Richardson's game, who he played with for a little bit in high school. Definitely, not like Caleb Foster's game, really. So yeah, not Dante Allen's game. Just think of all the guards he's played with. Like, so I think he has even more value to unlock as a passer. And yeah, I don't think it's close in terms of short roll passing in this class. I truly didn't even take the time to think of anyone else. And now I'm trying to like off the top of my head, like Josh Jefferson's good at that.
No, it's a good call.
Baba
yeah,
Miller,
I only wrote down Boozer. I only have Boozer, and we got some other questions or some other ones that you didn't have on the list, but I'll shout them out because I screen capped this because it was 3 in a row when I was just looking at my own Twitter and you had tagged me in it. And 3 in a row, we got highest IQ, then bully ball scorer, then stretch big. I'm like, I think I'm going Boozer for all 3 of these. I'm going Boozer, and I'm going Boozer for best short roll passer. He has a supercomputer brain for sure. It's just like maybe the best part of his package, I feel like, is just how smart he is and how good of a processor he is. I wrote that in my piece today. In addition to that, how many times is the smartest guy on the floor also the strongest guy on the floor?
Not that
and then
often.
a pretty damn good shooter. And that's why I'm pro Boozer. I'm like, he's got brains, he's got brawn, and he's got skill.
Yeah, it's I mean, this is obviously a Boozer show, but yeah, I mean, he is a phenomenal short roll playmaker. That's just one of the many aspects of his game that is going to translate to the next level. But I think there's like plenty of other options. I think honestly I might go Baba Miller second. Like he is an awesome playmaker on the move. So, but yeah, clearly Boozer. Next
then
one,
2010. I was, I think, 23 years old, and it was a big summer for the Bulls. They were going after LeBron.
Yep.
They were going after Dwayne Wade. They were going after Chris Bosh.
This was right around when I was really getting into the NBA. I'll say that.
And I remember being at a party, and we're like playing beer pong or flippy cup, and the news comes in that the Bulls have gotten Carlos Boozer, and just so disappointed. But I always had a soft spot for Boozer. Like, I hated him as a player, and everyone I knew hated him as a player, his dad. But he was an enjoyable personality. I did an interview with him, and he was unbelievable. This was probably like 8 years ago at this point, but super nice guy. So it's so cool to see his kid be this good. And I saw Cam and Carlos together at the Final Four because Cam had to come accept a Player of the Year award from the Writers Association. So, just so funny that Carlos Boozer's kid is like this awesome prospect now. And hey, C Booze the Bull was Carlos Boozer's handle once upon a time. So I want to run that back with Cam.
Yeah, I mean, look, I gave last mock draft I did on the channel with Derek Parker. We ended up with the Bulls landing Boozer at 2 and Mara at 15. And I think that would make the entire city of Chicago explode in good or bad ways, depending on how much ball you know. But anyways, next question about passing as well. At MVP Jenkins' superlative, best pocket passer. I think this is a loaded field, personally. I only wrote down one guy because I think it's a clear answer, but I also think this is a stupidly loaded field. So I'm curious to hear what you have.
I got one guy written down. It's Kingston Flemings.
Wow, interesting. I didn't have him in like my top three, honestly.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear you. You're going to be better at this one.
I think Bennett Sturts is like the best pocket passer I've ever seen. Maybe
Yeah.
since like LaMelo. Like and it's partially is just because of like he's just gonna have more volume than anyone else with the way he plays and the fact that all of his bigs are short roll bigs. Like he doesn't have any real roll, lob, dive threat bigs. Like Cam Manyawu and like Tavion Banks, right? It's like you're throwing the ball in the pocket, letting them take a dribble and go. But I think Sturts like his accuracy, his timing, placement with both hands. Like he'll fake the pocket pass to create space. But for me, I think Michael is the other one who I think is really special in terms of the flashes. Like it's definitely not as consistent as like a Sturts or even a Kingston Flemings or someone like that. I think Acuff is also phenomenal in this regard. But I'm curious why you had Flemings here.
I don't know. I felt like you do see flashes of it on his tape when he would hit like Tugler or Senak was, I feel like he would pop more than he would roll, but I feel like he was pretty good as a live dribble passer in tight spaces.
Agreed.
But honestly, as soon as you said Sturts, I'm like, oh, the answer's Sturts. Like, I've watched enough Sturts in my life to know that he is a nasty pocket passer, and I just blanked on that one, I think, but yeah, I feel like Flemings should do it too, but Sturts, I think, is the correct answer.
I'm going through my Kingston notes right now, and I have quite a few more pocket passes logged as plus plays than I maybe would have thought. So probably more credit to Kingston on that. But yeah, I think Sturts is just like he is I have so many like notes from like the GOAT pocket passer. Like nobody else tries these reads except for Michael, who, like I said, less consistent, but I mean some of the shit he'll try is just wild. I think they're like Braden Smith, the lower level one, who's just surgical. Like he will throw those between his legs. So my top three would have been Sturts, Michael, and Braden Smith, but like Acuff, Kingston Flemings. Like I said, I think this is like maybe the most loaded field for any superlative we've had, which is it's just a funny one. Like I'm like, yeah, there's so many sick pocket passers in this.
Great question. I love when they get super specific like this. So
Same.
that was a good one, and yeah, I feel like I might have sort of blew it, but you know what, Kingston, he's pretty good in that area. A lot of competition, like you said, and I'll let you set up the next question because this one for me it seemed disrespectful and hard. But I have a couple answers, so I want to see where you go.
I actually picked this question because I think the framing is really interesting. The superlative is, okay, from at Lacroix, I have no idea, I'm so sorry. At Lacroix1, most likely to be an incredible overseas player. I think it's so easy to just like think of that as a straight pejorative. It's like, he's going to make good money in Serbia, right? Whatever. But I do think it's an interesting thing to think about. Like, take Shane Larkin, for example. Like, if you really liked Shane Larkin as a prospect, like, aren't you right? Like, he didn't flame, like, yeah, he never did much in the NBA and was like a first round pick who didn't amount to much for the team that picked him, but like, he went to the EuroLeague and was the best player in the EuroLeague for a stretch. So like, I think there's two buckets for me here as well. And my first bucket is like guys who might flame out as first round picks. And my second bucket is like undrafted guys who are not even getting considered who might be Euro guys. But I'm just going to let you give your answers first here since you seemed a little disturbed and distressed about this one.
Yeah, and what's funny is while you were setting that up, I was thinking that, I had opinions on Gene Montero as a draft prospect back in the day. And he's like the best player in Europe too. Yeah. So, man, for sure. Like could he be the best player in college basketball next year if he?
I haven't been as tapped into Montero lately, but certainly could be from what I hear about him. And again, like I think people like you and I pay much more attention to like European basketball than the average person. But I think it's really cool to like see these players excelling in other places and potentially getting back to the league. But anyways,
yeah. So I got this name. It feels a little disrespectful, but I have Terrace Reed here, who I think is.
I can see it. Yep.
Yeah, potentially a first-round pick in this class. I like Terrace Reed. I felt bad about putting him here, but, he's got some things that are going to hold him back in the modern NBA game. I feel like he would just be a beast in Europe, and it would be really hard for anyone to deal with his level of physicality and with his touch around the rim. I feel like he would be unstoppable at that level. Now, he might be too good for it, and he might stick around in the NBA for, a decently long time because I like Terrace Reed and would consider him, man, I don't have a board beyond 30. The last one I did was actually mid-season. But I would probably have him 40, 45. I don't know. Where do you have an updated board, and do you have him
I have
anywhere?
Harris like early second, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was one name, and then a little deeper cut. How about Oscar Clough
Oh, love it.
from Purdue?
Love it. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I love
just
Oscar Clough.
he just whoops ass. Plays with a high
He
motor,
does whoop
smart
ass.
player.
Absolutely.
Really just like heady defender, active. So I think he would crush in Europe. I mean, he's going to be the greatest Australian League big man of all time,
So
potentially.
for my category, that's guy who's not going to get drafted, who could destroy in EuroLeague. I was close. I went Trey Kaufman Ren, but I think you're right. I think Clough is a better answer. I think like TKR is just like so classic to me, and like these like high usage mid range post scoring fours. Like there's no place for that in the NBA really with his skill set. But put him in the Adriatic League, and I could see him dropping 30 a night on plus efficiency. But I think Clough is a better answer for this. I think I might change my second answer to Clough. Like his touch and strength are crazy. Like he just like does not have the foot speed and the mobility to defend in the NBA, I don't think. But in Europe, with like a little less athleticism, a little more focus on like set plays, I think he could be an absolute monster. And then my guy who's like a consensus hot first rounder is Kopi. Um, I think we kind of took similar like paths to get to our answer in both ways. Cause like similar to Terrace, like hulking strength, really impressive intermediate touch, but just like what are we doing with like a 6'8" 4" who doesn't really shoot, is a mediocre passer, and has like real movement questions to me on defense. Like he's a crazy linear athlete. His explosiveness, like his strength, his ability to like even like slide laterally. But ask him to like change directions, ask him to like turn his hips, and it is ugly. But again, similar to like the Clough, the guys we're talking about. And it's interesting that like the immediate guys I thought of for this were all guards, but we both went with bigs, which I think is interesting because I just didn't like. I don't know. None of the guards to me like scream future Euro star to me. Like at least like early in the draft.
This is maybe half baked and stupid, but do you think there's any Josh Hart in Coapete? Or do you think like he just doesn't sort of have the
I
agility
think
to be
I
that
don't.
type of
I
deal?
think no, I don't think so. I think his. I just think his. I just do not trust his movement skills. Nor do I trust his feel. Like I think Josh Hart. I mean, I think his feel like Hart has his moments. Like he'll get back cutted or do dumb things. But like I think he's objectively a very smart player. And I just don't know how I feel about that for Koa. But yeah, I think man, he would be unbelievable. Even like in the EuroLeague, I think he'd probably fit in pretty well with the way that they like to play compared to the NBA. But I mean, obviously, like I think he's probably more likely to like at least stay in the NBA for a while. Other like not fair to say like Sergio De La Rey
Yeah, I thought about him too.
because I just think he gives like a good actual NBA guard. But like if not, yeah, I mean he's already a sick. Like there's a couple guys like Jack Kyle, the Gonzaga commit, played for Alba Berlin, like has been around in the German youth scene, just like a rock solid player, was a legit rotation guy for Alba Berlin in the EuroLeague this year. I think has more potential than that, but like already set up as a good EuroLeague guard. So yeah, I think this is a good. I like this question. Like I think it's. I try to think of this less of a pejorative and more of like a whose skill set would translate to that style of basketball. But there is an undeniable level of like, yeah, if I thought Pete was a better prospect, I wouldn't have said him for that. Let's get to our last superlative. Again, thank you to everyone. We had so many good ones. Definitely might do another one of these at some point. I really enjoy this format. But at Devin2022NU said, biggest sleeper, parentheses, as in actual sleep. I have like a real answer for this. I don't know. I don't know if you do.
I did not factor in the parentheses to this question. Like actually, like what does this even mean? Like actual sleep? Like who is asleep on the court? What's
No,
he going for here?
I took this as like who has like the healthiest sleep regimen. I think it's got to be Darren. I think it's got to be Darren Peterson, man. Like his, everyone raves about his preparation, his work ethic, his like recovery. I think that was a big part of like some of the reporting that came out was like how intense he is and how professional he is with his recovery and how much of recovery is sleep. I mean, it's so key to get your 8 to 10 hours and have your body rejuvenate, rebuild those broken muscle tissue, process all the things you learned from the day. And I think Darren's the kind of guy who's probably an annoying stickler about getting his 8 to 10. I can totally imagine, his boys being like, "Come out to the club," and he's like, "Nah, I got to I have a 6 a.m. tomorrow, and I need my 9 hours, or else I'm gonna be an asshole." So that's where I took this one.
I love it. I think there's no other answer. Darren Peterson got his rest this year, no doubt about it. And yeah, great question, great answer, Ben. Um, I didn't know how to answer this, so I just had like a handful of guys sleepers. But I had Henry Visar
Yeah, sure.
taking questions
I was gonna say I
literally.
don't mind ending this off talking about like actual sleepers. I think that's probably prudent.
Yeah, I wrote down Henry Visar, Trevon Brazil, and Kylan Boswell is my deep sleeper. So I don't know how all these guys are resting at night, but
I think Brazil is probably a light sleeper. I think you could probably wake him up just by like knocking on the door. Um, I don't know about Boswell though. I think Vesar is I don't know. I'm out of rails with his bit, but I mean I'm interested in quick pitch for all of those sleepers.
yeah, I would say Visar, I really liked him at Arizona last year. And when Krivas got hurt, he got thrust into the starting lineup. I had never heard of him. I had no idea who he was. And by the end of the season, I had him on my top 50 list, as I was talking about, but for a year before when he was at Arizona. So I thought he was really impressive just when he got his opportunity. And then in North Carolina this year, like just the fact that he was able to stretch out his range a little bit. Is he going to be a real floor spacer in the NBA? I feel like he kind of has to be for it to work. But I do like him. I feel like he plays a pretty smart physical game.
I'm a big
Um,
Vesar guy as well, so I'm with you there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bulls 38, you know?
Yep. But,
Chicago
I mean,
is. Like I would
to me,
love.
he's one of the few like stretch five prospects that like actually does big man stuff. Like he will rebound, he will wall up at the rim. Like not a crazy athlete, not super long, but has real tools. We've talked about like a lot of my favorite sleepers already, like Isaiah Nelson, Bruce Thornton, but thinking about anyone else, another Portsmouth guy, Rafael Castro.
Ooh, I want to hear your thoughts on him because I saw you tweeting about him.
George Washington Center, he is awesome. Like a long, Gumby-ish mover with like pretty awful like core strength seeming. Like he's always like crumpling over and looking in weird positions. But like another one I considered for the chaos agent superlative, like always moving right. His combination of movement skills and feel are bananas. Like Castro is an interesting one to me. He has he has some of the worst hands I've ever seen. Like he drops everything. He is so bad at catching the ball in traffic away from his body, and yet he like posts good assist to turnover numbers because he's just constantly making great decisions and finding players with the ball. I think aside from like the pretty worrying physical profile and his age, he's a senior. I think most of what his issues are fixable, and even you can add strength. You can get stronger even if there's a limit. And just Biggs with his mobility, his pick and roll coverage versatility, high motor, and I think the playmaking is just phenomenal. So he's another sleeper I like. Just quickly scrolling through to see if there's any more big sleepers I like that we haven't talked about. I don't know. I think we probably got most. I like Jalen Sellers, Providence guard. He's a fun creator. Another Portsmouth guy who I was turned on to at that tournament. But yeah, I think I probably covered all of my favorite sleepers. This is totally off topic, but what do you think about John Blackwell? He's like one of the only guys I hadn't watched because I just figured he wasn't going to be in the draft, and then I did a couple games of his because he might be.
Yeah, I wrote a story on him from the Big Ten tournament. Him and Tanji both went off. I think it was from that Washington game that I was at.
Mizzou legend.
Yeah, and or not Tanji.
Tanji, yep.
Well, yeah. Well, Tanji was his teamate last year.
No, Tanji's the
Boyd.
Mizzou legend.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, he was there for. Did he play a game? I know he was there.
He was hurt. He was hurt the whole season.
He was hurt the whole season. Yeah. I was gonna say him and Nick Boyd. That's what my story was about. I said Nick Boyd and John Blackwell. These guys are one of the best backcourts in the country. And Blackwell's really good, and I think he'll be a nice get for Duke in the portal. But he's like the size of a point guard with the skill set of a shooting guard to me. Like he's not someone who I really want to run offense and think he's going to be a high level facilitator and creator. He's more of like a shot maker. And I do think that he does have some on ball, off ball versatility because he can get his own shot off the dribble. I don't know if he's setting other people up for good shots, but, yeah, I know the Illinois fans really wanted him, and Illinois was connected to him. I guess his dad went there, like early in his transfer.
They got my
process.
guy Stefan Vox, who I love.
Yeah, Oh,
So
for sure. I loved that for them. It's like a
that's gonna be
perfect
awesome.
Wagler replacement.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited to see Coleman next year too, the incoming
Love him.
freshman.
Yeah, he's great. The like 3 or 4 games I did of Blackwell this week, I feel like one of my main takeaways was, oh my God, Nick Boyd is so good. I hate that he's
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
His handle is unbelievable. Like it's almost like he's almost cocky with it. Like he'll just like throw the ball out in between like 3 defenders and like run and get it and like sham God the other way and get downhill. Like he obviously has limitations. He's like very old, broke out late. A lot of the stuff we've talked about, but like, oh my God, that guy's freaking
Uh,
awesome.
Blackwell was telling me, Boyd transfers in. He's like, yeah, I'm not watching tape on the transfers. Like, I'll see them when they come in. So Boyd shooting out one basket first day in Madison after, they all come back from break. And Blackwell goes up to him and he's like, hey, man, you want to play ones? And they said it was just an all-out war. And they both left with, like, bruises and, like, both getting hit in the face. And Boyd went up, and then Blackwell came back and won. And they were telling me this story after their Big Ten tournament win. And I just thought, man, what what a game that must have been. Like, two
Man,
competitive
I would have loved to be the
psychos.
fly on the wall for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the best stuff you can see sometimes,
it
too.
really
It's so
is.
much fun to,
I
to
mean,
watch.
I didn't come away super high on Blackwell, at least for the NBA for this year. Like I understand the vision. Like he is a pretty toolsy, like combo guard, long wingspan, impressive shooter, but not really an athlete. Like in terms of like twitch and explosiveness or strength. The passing didn't really pop to me. His ball control seemed limiting. So yeah, like you said, more of like a 2 guard skill set, maybe without ideal 2 guard size, but. Yeah, he's like one of the last guys I watched for my board. Just I did not think he was gonna be like be invited to the combine. But hey, I'm sure he's getting some good feedback if he's on that list.
Yeah, and he probably got a big old bag of cash if he's going to Duke, something tells me. So
I know
the Duke team will be interesting next year, and like
he
they
and
needed like a steady
he and
guard.
Cedric Howard and Alan Grades can all come back to Durham with their with their Duke visits. You know.
Yeah.
That is, I think, all I've got, and we could ramble forever. But Ricky, thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you tell the people what you're up to these days? I know it's a busy time for you, as it is for me with the draft coming up and with playoffs happening. So yeah, why don't you just plug whatever you'd like to plug?
I'm trying to be selfish, Ben, and spend more time focusing on draft writing and NBA writing in general because at SB Nation, I got a lot of responsibilities. I manage some football writers, I manage the social team, I do some other stuff, but this is my time to shine,
It
right?
is
Like
your
March Madness and
absolutely
NBA
time to
draft.
shine.
So I'm trying to clear out, call in isolation, let myself cook. I spent an entire day on a piece earlier this week on why Cam Boozer's best player in the draft. So you check that out if you want to on SBNation.com. And then after the lottery, I do it every year, instant mock draft. I've already written about 4,000 words for this stupid article. So it's going to go up hopefully 10 minutes after.
Prepping the pre-lottery mock draft days before the lottery even happens. That is this business. That is the game. But Ricky is.
Yeah, I'm just pre-writing it because it's on Mother's Day. I got to go hang out with my mom.
I know it's
so,
honestly awful timing. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm gonna be like sitting at the restaurant with like my mom and my grandma. And just like I'm like, if I'm really sad, I promise it's not because of you. Like it's like.
How do you explain a pick protection to a grandma? It's like.
I'm just gonna be like, this thing is making me really sad, and I don't want to talk about it. Like,
Hey, I also did a list this week of teams that deserve lottery luck, and I have the Pacers
number 1,
number 2. Yeah, I got them number 2. So,
well, you're biased, so.
well, no, I have number 1 as the Sacramento.
Oh,
Kings.
you didn't have the Bulls number 1? Oh.
I got the Bulls number 4. Okay, just give me a top 4 pick.
How are
the
the
Bulls
Kings more deserving than the Pacers? No way. No way.
Well, I'm all about the Pacers. Getting the second pick is almost as good as getting the first pick.
I know. I'm just petty.
So, yeah, I mean, the Pacers to me, and I got a lot of pushback on the Pacers in that article. People saying, oh, they're going to be good next year no matter what. They were just in the finals. They don't need a. No, dude. I mean, the Pacers gave us such a thrilling, inspiring run as basketball fans. Their best player was hurt, played hurt, going into Game 7. It cost him a year of his prime. So I would like to see the Pacers rewarded. I also thought that trade was hot garbage that they made for Zubac. and
Okay.
I'd hate to see him lose the pick.
If I'm like a bird's eye view observer, it's like, you know what? Maybe a little bit of karma for that extremely hubristic trade is kind of the only way I really think of it. It's like, yeah, you are like real confident in so many things that maybe you just can't be as confident about. But hey, the coin lands tails, and we're all good. But thank you everyone for watching today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, go follow Ricky. All of his stuff will be linked down below, and have a nice day.